Good day, everyone. So our topic for this day is all about learning disabilities. So there are many words associated in this uh, learners with special needs in when it comes to learning disabilities. So what is this? it- what are learning disabilities? So learning disabilities are problems that affect the brain's ability to receive, process, analyze, or store information. So yung nagka-problema ang kanilang pag-iisip, nagka-problema ang kanilang utak, so that is learning disabilities. These problems can make it difficult for students to learn as quickly as someone who is not affected by learning disabilities. So meron silang problema na makapag-cope up and makapag-aral na maintindihan o maunawaan ang kanilang pinag-aaralan. So that is learning disabilities. So let us now talk about learning disabilities. So we have the Committee on the Learning Disabilities last 1980s and a heterogeneous group of disorders manifested by significant difficulties in the acquisition and use of listening, speaking, reading, writing, reasoning, or mathematical abilities. So these are the learning disabilities that are experienced by some of the learners, and these disorders are intrinsic to the individual and presumed to be due to central nervous system dysfunction. So there is a big problem when it comes to the brain of the child, since the brain is the central nervous system organ. Okay. So what is the specific learning disabilities? The strong converging evidence supports the validity of the concept of specific learning disabilities. This evidence is particularly impressive because it converges across different indicators and methodologies. The central concept of SLD involves disorders of learning and cognition that are intrinsic to the individual. So the main affected in this, the main aspect affected by this is the learning and the mental or the cognitive aspect of the child, the cognitive the cognitive aspect. So specific learning disabilities are specific in the sense that these disorders it significantly affect relatively narrow range of academic and performance outcomes. So that is. So another one, the specific learning disabilities may occur in combination with other disabling conditions, but they are not due primarily to other conditions such as intellectual disability, behavioral disturbance, lack of opportunities to learn, or primary sensory deficits. So the main problem or the main difficulty here is the opportunity to learn. Yung nahihirapan silang matuto, yung nahihirapan sila to grasp the learning, to grasp understanding in the concept or theories presented in the class. So what are the nature and causes of learning disabilities? Number one is heredity. Learning disabilities often run in the family. Children with learning disabilities are likely to have parents or other relatives with difficulties. So meaning this is inherited. Namamana din po ang learning disabilities either in the family, in the members of the family, or with the titas or lolos and lolas. So problems during pregnancy at birth, this may be a problem also because learning disabilities can result from anomalies in the developing brain, illness or injury, fetal exposure to alcohol or drugs, low birth weight, oxygen deprivation, or by premature or prolonged labor. So if the mother is taking drugs, taking a substance po, there is a substance abuse. The main result of that is learning disabilities. So nagkakaroon ng problema. Accidents after birth also. Learning disabilities can also be caused by head injuries, malnutrition, or by toxic posture, such as heavy metals or pesticides. So take note of head injuries. So maybe if the parent or the child experience injuries, so it can be a problem in learning. So also malnutrition, if the child is undernourished, he is not healthy, so probably he or she will experience learning disabilities. So there is an incident rate estimated 15% of the US population, 6% to 8% of school age population. And what is the characteristics of learning difficulties? Number one is low reading rate. They have the difficulty to read. They have the difficulty to comprehend what they are reading. Then problems remembering math facts. They have the problems to remember numbers. Problems with reasoning and abstract concepts. They cannot able to explain. They cannot able to reason out, difficulty finding important points or main ideas. They cannot able to grasp the main concept. Problem understanding what is read. So what I am saying a while ago, there is a difficulty to comprehend with the discussion. So another one is difficulty recalling arithmetic operations. So another one is yung about sa confusing ano din with the words mga familiar words for note taking and outlining skill. They cannot take down notes. They cannot comprehend confusion or reversal of numbers or math symbols. They have the difficulty to understand numbers and for fundamental operations, letter reversals, like sometimes P or D can reverse. Difficulty remembering what is read. I already explained that. Difficulties beginning and sticking with the study. Poor organization and management of time. Okay. Then frequent spelling errors. Next is the overly large handwriting. They have big letters, lumalampas sa linya, sa blue, sa red, and sa blue. Inability to complete assignments in time allowed, diba? Since they have the learning difficulties, they are experiencing difficulty to understand, so they cannot answer easily and quickly. Poor memory for recalling material, difficulty with sentence structure or for grammar. Since there is learning disability, they cannot able to express their thoughts or ideas easily also. Slow writing rate, difficulty following directions. So learning disabilities are often identified by psychiatrists, school psychologists, clinical psychologists, and neuropsychologists through a combination of intelligence testing. So we cannot totally tell if a child is with learning disabilities if they have not undergone intelligence test, academic achievement testing, classroom performance, and this is based on the observation of the teacher, and social interaction and aptitude. Other areas of assessment may include perception, cognition, memory, attention, and language abilities. The resulting information is used to determine whether a child's academic performance is commensurate with his or her cognitive abilities. Generally accepted estimates of its prevalence in school-age children range from 3% to 9%, but may run as high as 20% to 25%. Reading disability accounts for nearly 75% of referrals for learning disability, which the United States Department of Education has estimated that 5% of all school children are referred of for learning disabilities. Diba? So number one also is the reading disability. Kita baga, if we cannot totally read, if we cannot totally understand. So there's a big problem when it comes to learning. Diba? Paano mo matututunan kung mismo hindi ka marunong magbasa? Yan. So self-esteem also are negatively influenced. Personal and financial strains are placed on parental resources and equanimity. It can have a profound and lasting impact on family functions and relationship. This makes reading disability a vital public health issue. So another thing that is being explained here is a reading disability. The ability to read is crucial to function effectively to any degree in our society. All demographic groups, whether broken down by occupation, ethnic origin, or race, gender, and educational level, with the varying degrees for information, political awareness, social development, and entertainment. Children who have difficulty learning to read fall behind their peers and do not reach their full social and economic potential. They tend to isolate themselves because they can be a victim of bullying. They can be bullied by their friends, if they cannot able to read. Older reading for meaning may be considered a psychologistic achievement of multi-component and highly complex behaviors involving many cognitive processes. The initial phases of reading are visual. So these are the types of learning disabilities. Number one is dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia. So what are the difference, the difference of this to each other? Yung dyslexia, people with dyslexia usually have trouble making the connection between letters and sounds and with spelling and recognizing words. They have the difficulty to identify the letters and to identify the sounds of the letters. Yan ang mga dyslexia. People with dyslexia often experience with other symptoms like failure to fully understand what the others are saying. They cannot understand, difficulty organizing written and spoken language, delayed ability to speak. They cannot able to speak well, poor self-expression, difficulty learning new vocabulary, trouble learning foreign languages, slowness in learning songs and rhymes. Siyempre, if you cannot able to identify the letters, if you cannot identify the sounds of the letters, you cannot read, no? Tandaan po natin yan. So, nahihirapan yung mga batang magbasa kung hindi sila marunong mag-combine ng mga tunog ng bawat letra, no? So slow reading as well as giving up on longer reading tasks, difficulty understanding questions and following directions, poor spelling, difficulty recalling numbers in sequence, and trouble distinguishing left from right. Another one is the dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is characterized by problems with writing. From the word itself, graphia, this disorder may cause a child to be tense, endure awkward when holding a pen or pencil, even the extent or contorting his or her body. A child with very poor handwriting that he or she does not outgrow may have dysgraphia. So these are the children would have difficulty to write. Ano? A strong dislike of writing or drawing. They are able to cry because they have the difficulty to write, the difficulty to draw, problems with grammar, trouble writing down ideas, a quick loss of energy and interest while writing, trouble writing down thoughts in a logical sequence, saying words out loud while writing, and leaving words in unfinished or omitting them when writing sentences. Hindi siya sinasadya, kundi maraming mga nangyari din ito na they have the difficulty to complete the sentence. There is always a missing word or words in one sentence. So dyscalculia, from the word itself, calculia, which is more on the numbers, and include the problems understanding arithmetic concepts such as fraction, number lines, and positive and negative numbers. Other symptoms may include difficulty with math-related word problems. Siyempre, pag once na there is a learning disability, they are not able to understand the word problem. So they are not able to solve the problem because they did not understand the word problem. Trouble making change in cash transactions, messiness in putting math problems on paper, trouble recognizing logical information sequences, trouble with understanding the time sequence of events, and difficulty with verbally describing math process. So next is dyspraxia. What is this? A person with dyspraxia has problems with motor tasks, such as hand-eye coordination that can interfere with learning. They have the difficulty to coordinate their hands and eyes. So other symptoms, problems organizing oneself and one's things. They are messy. They are having an adaptive things, breaking things, yan. Trouble with tasks that require hand-eye coordination, such coloring within the lines, assembling puzzles, and cutting precisely. They have the poor balance. They tend to fall, no? Yung natutumba na lang. Sensitivity to loud or repetitive noises, such as ticking of a clock, sensitivity to touch. Yan. So what are the diagnosis of these learning disabilities? So number one is through the use of IQ achievement discrepancy. that they are able to consult psychologists or psychiatrists, wherein they will be tested with the use of a tool in order to identify their IQ level. And another one is the response to intervention, which is the RTI. There is a current research has focused on the treatment oriented, wherein the recommendation is to implement such model, include early screening of for all students. That's why po in the Department of Education, they have the screening. They also screen and they also identify. If they are not doing this and they just recommend the child to be included in the learners with disabilities, there's a big problem with the school. There's a big problem with the teachers. So it is a must to assess the child in order for us to give a proper intervention on how to handle this kind of learners inside the classroom. So when it comes to assessment, many norm assessment may use in evaluating skills in the primary academic domains such as reading, including word recognition, fluency, and comprehension, mathematics, including computation and problem solving, written expression, including handwriting, spelling, and composition. So the most commonly used comprehensive achievements test is the Woodcock-Johnson, the Wechsler Individual Achievement Test. So these are the tools that we are using in order to measure the academic domains of these learners with difficulty in learning. In the reading domain naman, they include Grace Diagnostic Reading Test, the Stanford Diagnostic Reading Assessment. So there are so many reading assessment tools that we can use to identify this kind of learners with difficulty in learning. So we are not going to judge, we're not going to totally tell the parents that the child is a learner with difficulty in learning as long as there is an assessment. The purpose of assessment is to determine what is needed for the intervention. So in a particular result of the teacher, they will make an intervention out of that result. So yan po ang pinaka-importante tatandaan. We will not totally give an intervention without studying, without assessing the child. Okay po? So another one is educational implications. So what is the educational implications of learning with the disabilities? The student's perceptual problems may require a different presentation of learning material. For example, a visual learner will have difficulty learning from a lecturer, which requires auditory skills. So it's a must to give an activity in order to to require auditory skills. So the teacher will use a tape recorder. Yan po. So another one is the students' difficulty in written work. So the scientists, mathematicians, and other who have poor reading and writing skills due to learning disabilities, oral examination. Di ba? If they have difficulty in learning, so oral examination reports will provide more valid evaluations. Yan. So another one is these are also the other recommended accommodations like the alternative assignments, book on tape, testing accommodations, test proctoring, extended time for tests, yan. So the accommodation is typically a higher education institution requires that a student with disability register with the office that provides support services for students with disability in order to receive accommodations. It is the student's responsibility to request services in a timely manner. So in order for them to be accommodated, they will inform the school ahead of time, and in order that the people that will handle are also oriented na there are learners with disabilities, di ba? The goal is to give students with disability equal access to the learning environment. Let us treat them normal. Let us treat them equally. Let us treat them that they are also striving their best to finish their academic program. No, wag natin silang husgahan na porket ganito sila, wag hindi na sila magtatapos ng pag-aaral. A specific learning disability is unique to the individual. It can be manifested in a variety of ways. So therefore, accommodation for the specific students must be tailored to the individual. Okay? So dapat mabigyan sila like the classroom, they can be given an assignment, examination, or accommodation, or that may be recommended for a student with learning disability. Okay? So, classroom and assignment accommodation, you may be asked to assist the student in finding effective peer note takers from the class. Halimbawa, sa loob ng classroom, mayroon siyang kahirapan, so maghahanap ka ng assistance na makakatulong sa kanya para siya'y makasabay. Allow student to tape record lectures. Yan, they must have the extra gadget in order to record your lesson. Allow the student additional time to complete in-class assignments, provide feedback, and provide assistance with proofreading written work. Okay? So it's very important now we are there to guide, we are there to help the child. So in the examination, you may be asked to allow students with a learning disability, you will give them extended time to take exam in a room with reduced distractions wherein they can focus and they cannot be disturbed. The assistance of a reader, dapat may katuwang din siya, may katabi siyang nagbabasa ng question. The option of an oral exam, so it's more on the oral expression, ang bigyang pansin, ang bigyang diin ng teacher. Okay? So you will also allow to use calculator and scratch paper during examination. So this is an example of a couple with learning disability. Yan, they have that. Yan ang kanilang itsura. Tom Cruise also an example of a person with learning disability. Okay? So, yan. These are the references of si Tom Cruise, ang kanyang pinaka number one na problema din ay ang dyslexia. Okay? Yun ang kanyang pinaka number problem. So, thank you very much everyone.